In this video, I want to introduce you to my journey into the mortal realms of Age of Sigmar. Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. As a hobbyist who spends more time online than rolling dice, I've been watching Age of Sigmar from afar really since it was announced. To give some background, I've never played Warhammer Fantasy and I never really had a huge interest in ever playing it. To me, rightly or wrongly, it always felt like a game that was just too damn hard to get into. The idea of buying and building and painting a 2,000 point army, which was mostly made up of rank and file replicas of exactly the same model, just felt too much like a production line to me, and less like a hobby. When most of the models would be hidden away by the others whilst they were built up in the front ranks. I just couldn't bring myself to get interested in the hobby side of the game. When it came to the rules, I just saw two people standing there reading rule books and not actually doing very much. Now granted, I had a limited exposure to fantasy and my opinions are based purely on the few people I saw playing it, but it seemed like a complex game to understand, a high level of entry and just little reward in the aesthetics, so I swerved the game. So why am I rambling about Warhammer Fantasy? Because when the earth stopped spinning and end times happened, it didn't really register with me that much. I didn't have a dog in the race. So I bought my popcorn and I watched the internet explode from the comfort of the sofa. At the time, I played Hordes in Warmachine and I already gamed with people who'd become disgruntled by fantasy over the years. The price of GW models and the whole evil corporation that they'd apparently become. And I never once really heard anyone have anything hugely positive to say about Warhammer Fantasy. As Age of Sigmar launched in the early 2015, the internet laughed at the 4-page rule set. They moaned about the new Space Marine fantasy faction, they cried at the lack of point costs, and they ridiculed the rules about making noises like a horse to gain a bonus. Age of Sigmar really was looking dead before it had even begun. So, fast forward almost 2 years, and all this time I spend online, I'm beginning to hear more and more positive things about Age of Sigmar. The General's Handbook appears to have drawn the competitive gamers back into the game. GW's new community-focused attitude seems to have softened even some of its harshest critics, and the new Start Collecting boxes have shown that they're wanting to try and ease people into the addiction. A local group has recently started up which seems to be full of other gamers who also have commitments, which means that they can't game on weekends and so meet every other Thursday, which fits perfectly with my free time, and they're heavily into Age of Sigmar. So I thought, let's give it a look. They're starting a slow grow campaign, which means that they have lots of new players all starting from the ground up. And they have a plan mapped out until August, which sees deadlines for building and painting a set point cost of models in easy to swallow 250 point chunks. This sounded perfect for me, so I've decided to dive in and give it a shot. So my plan is to learn to play the game, to build, paint and play a 200 point army and eventually play in a tournament. I've never managed in all my wargaming years to have a fully painted army, so that alone will be an achievement. However, I'm starting with absolutely zero knowledge, so I'm going to use my channel as a means of motivation to help me hit deadlines, a diary of my journey to try and help others who are getting started in the game, and also to enable me to ask you for hints and tips which will help me along the way. So you're interested in Age of Sigmar, where do you start? That was my first question too. The fact that there's much looser structure to army composition and factions than in other games actually made this seem more confusing than I initially thought. The best advice I can give you is, if you're interested in the game itself, get yourself over to the Games Workshop website, download the rule set PDF, which is free, and have a read over the 4 pages of rules. Have a look on their page at the different factions and see what models you like. For those that don't know, Age of Sigmar has 4 main factions, or Grand Alliances as they're called. Order, Chaos, Death and Destruction. Each of these factions are then split into races, or allegiances as they're also called. So for example, within the Grand Alliance of Order, you have the Stormcast Eternals, they're the new golden dudes, the Sylvaneth, formerly part of the Wood Elves, and the Duardin, last known as Dwarves. So this is where your old fantasy armies can be reused, or you can start a brand new army. You can build your force from any mix of models you like. So if you want to play with models from Stormcast Eternals, who had gone rogue, and mix them with Skaven, who now worship their new golden gods, then go for it. You can mix and match until your heart's content. There are bonuses you can gain from staying within your Grand Alliance, and further bonuses still if you stay within your allegiance. So for example, if you only have models in your army that are from Sylvaneth. This is a huge change from anything I've ever played before, and it opens up options of buying the models I just want to paint and collect rather than just the models I need to play. Once you've settled on the models you like, have a look at the start collecting boxes. They offer a fantastic value start to your new army, and for around £50 retail in the UK from Games Workshop, they offer a substantial saving over buying the models individually. If you shop around online, you can get further savings still, with some retailers offering up to 30% off that price. If two of you are getting into the game and you like the look of the Stormcast Eternals and the Khorne Bloodbound models, then the starter box is great value split too. Each model has a set of statistics and rules specific to it, which are additional to the main game rules. These are called War Scrolls. And guess what? They're free too. Again, they can be downloaded from Games Workshop site, or alternatively, they have a really neat app for both iOS and Android, which you can download to your phone or tablet. There are Grand Alliance faction books and specific Allegiant books you can also buy, which contain background fluff about the races, some painting guides, and also the War Scrolls. However, they are optional and you can play without them. They are worth checking out though, as the artwork in the background really does give you a feel for the factions. And they're fairly well priced versus the army books of old Warhammer Fantasy. So they're around £15 in the UK from Games Workshop. And again, you can see some discount online. This gives you all the info you need to field your new army and actually get started. And pretty much that's all you need. There are now 3 ways to play Age of Sigmar, which are open player, narrative player, and matched player. And these can be found in the optional, but in my opinion, essential purchase of the General's Handbook. This was a later addition to the Age of Sigmar and was released in the middle of 2016, priced again at £15 from Games Workshop. Again, you don't need this to play. However, for the relatively low price, it is very much worth it. There is a General's Handbook 2 in stages of being constructed as I record this, which I assume will be released around the middle of 2017. So if you're watching this in the future, just be aware some things may have changed. Open play is where we don't assign points to the models. You just put on the table what you want to play. Your opponent does the same and you just have fun. If you're playing with a mate and you just want to play with the models you like, then this is a great way to play. It's not for everyone, as some people like the structure and of a point cost and an army composition. However, this is the way Age of Sigmar was originally intended to be played at release. The balance really comes from the social contract between the two of you as friends, and just trusting that one of you doesn't pull a dick move and just play 10 huge monsters against your opponent who's only just managed to build his first 20 skeletons. If you play with a regular group of friends, this can work well. There are win conditions linked to this way of playing so that it might actually be interesting to play an obviously unbalanced game, just to see if you can defy the odds and have the underdog win. So again, apparently one-sided games can be fun to play. There's even ways to play with multiple opponents, for example 3, 4, 5 or 6 players, which isn't the norm for a tabletop wargame. Narrative play is perfect for those who like to play campaigns and is essentially putting a storyline around games you play and giving you the tools to enable the outcome of one battle to influence another. You can use the basics from open play to assign your armies, or you could use the point costs from the match play. So match play is more like the war games we're used to, with some form of army composition restriction and a point cost associated with each model or each unit. This will most certainly be more comfortable to most people and will be essential in any kind of competitive tournament structure or when playing against relative strangers to attempt to give some kind of a balancing mechanic. And there you have it, a brief rundown of how I've found myself getting into Age of Sigmar and what I've learned about it so far. Hopefully any beginners out there will be slightly better informed now, and if you like what you've seen, please drop a like rating and also subscribe if you'd like to join me on my journey into the mortal realms, on my quest to go from zero to hero. See you in the next video where I'll take you through my choice of army and where I am so far. Thanks for watching.